Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunya IAS. So the students who were writing the Mains 2025, your GS3 and GS4 papers are done. And now you're looking forward to your optionals, which will begin in 5 days from now. This video is specifically for the students with political science optional, that how they can utilize the remaining 5 days, how can they plan, how they can strategize. The very first thing, the GS papers are done, right? You have spent on 22nd, you have written your essay, 23rd, GS1, GS2, and GS2 again being one of the very tough papers for this year, overall also. And then now today you have written GS3 and GS4. So very first thing is, it is very natural to feel what is the difficulty of the paper, how did other people do, etc, etc. But the point is, if you do too much of discussion on this part, first of all, you are already very tired. You'll be wasting a lot of time in discussion. Second, this will also spill over to the upcoming week, which you actually have to optimize, okay, for your optional. So my first advice would be for you is avoid the discussion of GS papers. You can do it after 31st. 31st is your optional day, ठीक है? उसके बाद आप करो, you go into detailed discussions, all the nitpicking we can do. So the GS discussion can wait, okay? Second thing is, back to back, many of you would have given the exam with very less sleep, okay? So you actually need rest. So as soon as possible, perhaps after the GS4 exam, you have some good meal over up khake, and then try to rest for a good amount, because the next 5 days, again, you have to revise, you have to cover some of the backlog if that is there. So focus on your rest, and because rest and recovery is equally important. And with that, then we have to focus on that how can we strategize and make the best use of these 5 days. Now I'll tell you again from a lot of practical experience with students and with myself also, I'll tell you that generally when the students are, the moment of GS, all these papers get done, you also feel a kind of a relief, okay? And sometimes then you discuss it with your friends or with your parents, etc. And then that entire day of Sunday, and which spills, and then you, let's say you sleep late, you're already very tired, so you are also not able to effectively use Monday, okay? And the syllabus in general is vast. So when you actually think, any 5 days I'll be able to revise it 2 times, okay? But then actually revising it 1 time also becomes a challenge, fine? So our focus is to be that we have to prioritize the moment you get back on track, and then you put your Monday to best use, it sets the tone for the whole week, ठीक है? तो कोशिश करनी है हमें Monday को, we want to make our Monday productive, okay? Then other days will follow. Now on Saturday, we already know we have the language papers. And on Sunday, you have your paper 1 and paper 2, right? Now, specifically for language papers, if you are giving your mains for the first time, if you have not had an idea, and if you're not able to do anything for it, okay, let's say if Hindi is the other language paper that you have to give, for that, I would suggest that not that you read it only on Friday, but on the other days also, let's say every day, maybe half an hour or so, if you just go through the grammar portion of it, fine? So one, you can do its grammar, okay? Second thing, which is very high yielding, because other sections, the reading comprehension wala part, the pressy, this you can do, but the writing part of it, for that I would say, please make a list of vocab, which means just simple words like democracy. What is the Hindi of democracy? Okay, power, justice, equality, terms that you normally use, environment, pollution, climate change, because generally these kind of terms, immediately you may not know the exact, let's say, what is the exact Hindi of it, okay? तो इतना भी अगर आप करोगे sincerely अच्छे से from Monday to Friday, maybe half an hour or 1 hour each, that is good enough to at least sail you through the language papers, okay? And seeing the grammar also, fine? Because other time inevitably has to go to your optional, fine? Now, this is one. Now you have these 5 days. At least we want to note, if you utilize your day 1 and day 2 really well, it will actually help you maximize this, fine? Now, what should be the plan? Because of course you are giving paper 1 and paper 2. Now, depending on number 1, your strengths and weaknesses, right? Many of you are a part of the crash course who are writing mains. By now, if you've written the tests, you have a fair idea of which sections, be it paper 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, in which you are comfortable and in which you are not comfortable. So my point is, if you are, let's say, uncomfortable, okay, on maybe paper 2, it could be paper 1, start with these sections and give it more time in these 2 days initially, okay? Your idea is that both papers, paper 1 and paper 2, should be completed in 2 days. 1 day extra we have kept for buffer or revision, okay? Now, when you are doing this, okay, so what, aapko just maybe some hunch, you have something, you know, ki haan, maybe this portion needs some work, or you've created a list. I've already asked the people of crash course, etc., to create a list of topics in which you need more revision, fine. So have a list of it, keep that handy. Abhi bhi nahi banaya hai, तो maybe starting on Monday, okay, if you have some time, it will hardly take 30 minutes. ठीक है? Let's say there is end of ideology, or perhaps in paper 1B there are some sections, जैसे अगर आपको फिर से religion, ethnicity, etc. So please go through your crash course note. We've already covered it in a proper holistic manner. The point is, the moment you revise it, because it would have been some days, आपने जब GS अभी फिर से शुरू किया होगा, almost I think 1 week or something week back, some touch of optional you may have lost, fine. So the moment you start to revise it, all of that confidence will come back, fine. That is one. So you divide your days accordingly. Ideally speaking, 2 days each, and 1 day is reserve day, spillover, because the moment you give your language papers, you will come back around 6 p.m. So you barely have those 3 or 4 hours, and then you have to again sleep, and then again you have to attempt the paper, fine. So most of the planning has to happen in this manner, and you allocate time. So it should not happen कि अभी WPT पढ़ने बैठे हैं, पूरा day 1 में paper 1A भी नहीं, you have not completed, you have only devoted the time to WPT. That is not good use of time, fine. So if I'm sitting on this day 1, it is better that I complete all the other parts of paper 1A, okay, and then you at the end keep WPT, because generally WPT में, okay, let's say if you have very bulky notes, revising WPT or IPT takes a huge amount of time, fine. So be very clear in these 5 days that you have to be very methodical in your approach, okay. Otherwise, if you just try to go back and read your foundation notes, तो फिर time ज़्यादा लगेगा. And the moment, let's say किसी ने day 1 और day 2 में उसका paper 1A नहीं हो पा रहा है, okay, it is but natural you will panic. Then you will feel 1B, how will I do it? 2A, how will I do it? 2B, how will I do it? So in these 5 days, your task is not to read every line of every topic. The task is the quick revisions have to happen, because ultimately on Sunday you will feel I have 5 days, but with each passing day you will realize that time is not enough, okay. In general, political science is a big optional, and again you would have seen GS2 maybe a lot of questions you could have answered, because the GS2 is this time is difficult, right? So the questions that have been asked, okay, can be solved some of the knowledge from political science optional as well, okay. So my point is, divide these days, okay, and ideally for each day you should be doing one complete section, okay. Now specifically for paper 1A, 1B and 2A, if somebody is from the crash course and for some section you don't have your notes, please directly drop me a text, okay, कि सब मेरे को इस चीज़ में I have some of the handwritten notes from the class, so I just share that with you if any section is an issue, ठीक है. For paper 2B, I've already given you that proper handout, and on that handout we have only annotated, so I'm pretty sure the people of the course would have done this. That should help, fine. Number 1. Second thing is, we've already had test series, you've already written some tests in addition to the classes. For these tests, in case you have not written some of the tests, okay, let's say you started with paper 1A, 1B, and then because of GS, essay, etc., you could not find enough time. Now you can just quickly glance through the model answer, because in the tests most of the questions are based on UPSC format, ठीक है. तो अगर हमें कोई चीज़ जल्दी खत्म करनी है, this reading quickly would not take you more than 1.5-2 hours, and that will give you almost a complete coverage of, let's say, paper 2A or paper 2B for that matter, okay. So wherever needed, you can also supplement it through the model answers of the respective tests, right. So the initial tests are, let's say, very comprehensive in nature that you can follow, fine. Next is, those of you who have written tests would have had feedback, okay, you would have had detailed one-on-one discussions with me. उसमें भी general suggestions है, specific suggestions है, ठीक है. Just try to keep a tab on it कि हाँ, these are the kind of mistakes I used to make and these are the kind of suggestions I have got, fine. Because you've already spent time on writing test, this now should reflect in your answers and in your copies in the final exam, right? That is why we were spending so much of time writing and discussing and debating, fine. This you will also do. Then, for example, when you're reading and revising, at least 1 hour a day should go for brainstorm and structuring, okay. So for example, you've structured your day. Let's say on Monday you want to complete paper 1A, okay. So paper 1A, let's say you start from political theory, then you go to theories of state. In between, for example, the moment I say theories of state, let's say I take neoliberal theory of state directly mentioned in the syllabus, okay. I'll just quickly try to brainstorm. Acha, how will I open this question? What are the key thinkers? Okay, what are the key theories? Why are their theories criticized? And what is the way forward? If I do it in this manner, the way I would actually write an answer, this will not only save my time, but this will actually be helpful in quick revisions. The moment I say equality, acha, what is equality? What is social equality? Okay, the political equality. What is Dworkin's assessment? What did Amartya Sen say? Okay, So the more and more, and your notes are structured in this format only, right? So this will help you. So brainstorm and structuring, this will actually make your sessions very active. सिर्फ पैसिवली नोट्स आप पढ़ते रहोगे, so it is of course ठीक है, but you can even incorporate this as possible, right? Then a very important point I want to tell you, please do not judge your preparation if you just see, let's say if you see any other previous year question, fine, and if you see 2 or 3 tough questions, sometimes in these last days, because our mind is very sensitive, you may think, array, I have not done this is a very difficult question. In fact, 2024 paper 2 was difficult because it was very current oriented. But please remember, the marking of that was relative, which is why people scored more marks in paper 2. I've had students who in fact could not attempt the entire paper, who in fact missed writing some good answers. They've had very good marks in paper 2. So this will happen every year also. Let's say even in the exam you feel that paper 1 or paper 2 is slightly difficult for you, despite you covering all the sections, then you have to attempt the paper to the best of your capabilities and let the marks take care of themselves. So अब यहाँ पे ये नहीं शुरू हो जाना चाहिए that you think, अरे sir, I have not followed this and that. You have time for these parts, fine. So suppose, I think generally the chances paper 2 में, especially paper 2B, you have not been able to follow. Let's say you had a difficult schedule, or some of you gave the UP PCS exam, okay, and you started your preparation late. आप पहले 1-2 दिन में वो backlog cover कर लो अच्छे से, ठीक है? Because other portions paper 1 तो आपने कर रखा होगा अच्छे से, right? So your priorities should get reflected. This is the most important part. Fine. So, and this is where you get your confidence. Don't leave it to the last. आप सोचो नहीं जो strong है मैं फिर से strong करूंगा the week, because ultimately it's a test of confidence. If you've already taken care of the strong portions earlier in the first 2 days, other days will be very relaxed for you. Fine. So we want to make sure in this front, if you again want any of my help, please reach out to me. I'll also help you out. So again, don't judge your preparation based on the PYQ. This also applies to the GS parts. Okay, so let's say you have left any question in GS, or in GS2 you find maybe that question number 17 on development very tricky, okay, or some other question not very specific, let's say Jammu and Kashmir reorientation, etc, etc. Don't delve too much of time on that. It was difficult for everybody, so then it is a relative exam, and many times with the papers which look very difficult, sometimes the marking is more lenient, then students forget everything about it. Okay, so please do that. So in the end, if I want to just summarize to what I've said to you, right? Every day, please ensure your revisions are power packed, okay? That you have slots divided in the day. If you know, pehle 2 ghante I have to do this, that is going to be very helpful. Some of you have already made short notes even out of the crash course. All of that will help you in revision. Okay? Be you are revising keywords or quotes or thinkers, etc., their ideas. That is good, because right now in the last 5 days we are giving the final shape to our preparation. So please ensure power packed revisions, and this is again I'm telling you, right now you are looking at proper 500 marks, and please remember, very important, optional mein marks अच्छे मिलते हैं. That means 50 to 60% marks you can get in the optional. That a kind of ROI is not there in GS, at least GS 1, 2 and 3. Okay. Here people, when I say 50%, so from 250 to 300 can be attained. So put your efforts here, thinking that yes, you can get a good amount of marks here. Second, even now please have a rough page when you revise. Fine. Us rough page mein kuch keep on scribbling something. This would help you that last when you go to the hall, etc. Kabhi kabar na, those last moments, some sheets or some things that you have, because if you have your registered bulky wo aap nahi revise kar paoge, that you'll not be able to revise. What you should instead do, have some rough page, see the keywords, okay, and these keywords, etc., will give you that last moment of confidence ki acha ha marks hai, the moment I say acha historical materialism, dialectical materialism, okay, class in itself to class for itself, all the keywords, let's say the history of all societies is hitherto the history of class struggle. All these things, if you are able to put into the exact point, that will be helpful. To last moment mein na, this can be something like a rough page or a cheat sheet. If you have made it, excellent. नहीं तो अभी भी कुछ scribble. ऐसे नहीं करना कि शुरू से लेकर something you are writing. This will again increase your time. But for some topics, etc., some things, let's say Hannah Arendt, you find it difficult. Make a very small 5, 6, maybe half a page for Hannah Arendt. Okay, acting in concert, right? On totalitarianism, what did she say? Banality of evil, right? All of these sections. Third is, it is very important to cover every topic of the syllabus. Fine. So even if there is a topic, just last year, if you remember, 2024, NAFTA is there in the syllabus. Many times people ignore it. अगर syllabus में topic mentioned है, वो हमें करना ही करना है. ठीक है? But even if you do 1 page of it, that is fine. So instead of doing PhD on some topics that you go in so much of detail, sub-syllabus coverage is very important. Fine. This again we've done this fairly well in the crash course. अब आते हैं current affairs पे. Current affairs पे भी the kind of content the people of the crash course you have, okay, that is more than sufficient to answer the questions, right? And even if you've seen the paper of this year, and especially GS2, questions on economic nationalism, etc., the globalization taking a back seat, etc. So we have discussed a lot of this again, Trump's MAGA, okay, or deglobalization, etc., all of these parts. So again, I'm telling you a lot of questions which you will see in the exam directly or indirectly would have been covered. Fine. So whenever you write it, you link your theories and static to it, so your notes will be very helpful. Fine. And all the major current updates almost for 1.5 years are there. So ye jo hai, content with this, be happy that you have done this. Second, the only addition that you can do is to go through quickly the model answers, okay, of let's say the test number 4, that is paper 2B. Any additional topic which is not there here is going to be covered either in the model answer also. Fine. If you want to specifically add to it, fine. Other than that, even this part, if you've done, should be good enough. Fine, right? Last point of advice I have for you, in optionals, you have spent a considerable amount of time. Okay, you maybe have done your foundation. Okay, you have spent some time, maybe years in the preparation. Trust your preparation. बहुत बार ऐसा हो सकता है पिछले साल का ये कुछ और आपको याद आ जाए पढ़ा हुआ. Fine. Think broad. Don't get to, even if the question is specific. Many times, if you think broadly about it, you can still answer that question. Fine. And that is how somehow the examiner traps you also. So please ensure you think broad. And lastly, please apply your mind. Even if the paper, every year there is a tendency, maybe one paper looks easier on the eye, and one paper or maybe one section looks slightly tricky, slightly difficult. Maybe 1 or 2 questions are placed in such a manner, आपको perception आ रहा है ये तो मुश्किल है. Even in that case, please apply your mind. Fine. Here also it is the fight, okay, that you have to do it till the last question. And always focus on this. It can happen that maybe 1 or 2 questions are really difficult. We have to ultimately choose 5 out of 8. That should maximize our efforts. Okay. So I hope that is what I wanted to tell you. If now anybody has an issue कि नहीं मुझे कोई specific problem है sir या कुछ ऐसा है, I will be available in all these days. Okay. So if you have a doubt, the people of the crash course already have my number. Okay. So that is there. Additionally, I'm just sharing a number in case somebody again wants to reach out. So people writing mains, if you have any issue, 78, this is the number, 93191 78775. If you have any doubt, maybe some last moment tips, etc., that is there. But the last thing just I want to say you, just please focus, okay, and believe in yourself, right? The optional syllabus may feel daunting, but if you put in your efforts and if you're able to utilize the last 5 days, sab bhool ke, again, just like Locke would say, mind being a tabula rasa, start with a fresh part, the last 5 days. Everybody would have had ki nahi sir, I could have done this part nahi. Ab in 5 days mein I will make the momentum. Again, I've already told you, please remember the power of recency effect. अगर आपके 5 दिन बहुत अच्छे जाते हैं तो your mind tells you नहीं, I am studying very well, and all of you have put sincere efforts to reach at this stage. Now is the time to rise and shine. Fine. So please make sure you do all of that. If there is any assistance that you need at my end, you are more than welcome to contact me, people of the crash course. Additionally, if you have any other query with respect to some of the answers, or if you want any feedback, okay, I would again be available on this number. You can just drop your text. If you want to visit offline also, people who are staying in Delhi, you can again drop me a text again for what time is more suitable to be arrived. But make sure you make the best use of your time. Okay? With that said, all the best wishes. अच्छे से करो आप. ठीक है? A lot of questions you will find what we've done directly coming in the paper. So अगर आप, if you revise them well, you will maximize on that. With that said, all the very best from my side. Thank you.